Welcome to Next Topic Podcast, where the only rule is to stay on topic and no topic is off limits. My name is Lo.
My name is Shad.
Cameron.
Once again, we are not joined by Abel because Abel is feeling under the weather.
Still.
A week later.
And sorry to Abel for feeling under the weather, but...
Sorry to that man.
No. Well, I was going to say
The good thing is...
it's timely for this topic.
Yes.
So, as y'all know, we are in a whole Ponderosa.
Ponderosa, pandemic, a pansexual.
Panoramic.
Mm-hmm.
Panera.
And the topic of today...
Peninsula.
Yes, gentlemen. The topic of today is the COVID vaccine hesitancy, black people in getting this vaccine, whether or not we will get the vaccine, but it's all coronavirus vaccine related. So,
I'm gonna kick this off, Flo.
Lord, let me run through my notes.
Yes, get it together because this is a big topic and needed.
Yes.
At the
So
moment.
rewind to earlier in this year when this was classified as a pandemic, and our government initiated what they called Operation Warp Speed, which was to develop this vaccine, a coronavirus vaccine, in a timeline that has never been done before for vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
Vaccines take years to be approved for use.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to now, we
got
have
two.
2 vaccines that have been approved for emergency use. They haven't been approved to be widely distributed to the broader population, but we have Pfizer
The peasants.
and we have Moderna, and healthcare workers are being vaccinated. So far,
elderly.
and elderly. So far, around 2 million people have been vaccinated.
In America.
In America, yes. Those 2 have been approved for emergency use in America. I read an article that said that at the current pace things are going, it would take 10 years for them to get to the amount of people they want vaccinated, which would be like 80% of our 330 million people.
It'll take 10 years. The
At
math
the
thing,
pace they're going.
The math is a math thing, though.
It would take 10 years.
Is it? I'm like in
2 million in 2 weeks.
This is what I read.
I understand.
So, and even though there have been 2 million people vaccinated, that doesn't, we don't know what the trend looks like. It could still be slowing down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then also we have the issue of vaccine hesitancy, which we're going to get into as well. And then we recently just saw on, a couple of politicians have decided to get their vaccinations
on national television.
Recently, Kamala Harris got hers, and under comments on a Shade Room post where she got her vaccination, or Shade Room, some other black blog, whatever, folks was like, we still ain't getting it, right? And so that's a big topic.
Barack got his yet?
I don't think he did, but he said he would get it.
Yeah, the presidents, they supposed to all get together. All the former presidents, right?
I think they said that,
okay.
like Bush, him, Clinton.
The Bushes and the Clinton, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, what else do I need to talk about? Vaccine hesitancy? Okay, so vaccine hesitancy is actually defined as anti-vax or but in the context of what we're talking about,
it's a big difference.
It's not being anti-vaxxer in that way, just not believing in the science or just being, I don't know. For black people.
Okay, turn.
Okay.
You going that way.
So for a lot of black people, the hesitancy just stems from all of the historical references we have and the mistreatment of black people in medicine,
and our
generally.
distrust in the whole healthcare medical
in
industry.
clinical studies, in hospitals. It permeates all.
Do we have some examples to give to the people? Because we make it clear why certain groups of people, specifically black people, are hesitant in getting the vaccine.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have questions why are black people? Some people just don't know. So let's go into why.
One very specific example that a lot of people know of is the Tuskegee, the syphilis outbreak. And essentially there were some sharecroppers, black, and they had syphilis, and they were recruited to participate in a clinical study under the auspice that they were going to be treated with some treatment,
For
which
treatment.
was already out there, by the way.
They get free health care and treatment for syphilis. Yeah.
Little did they know they were lab rats. They were going to be studied and not receive any treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one huge example of when scientists and people, medical professionals you think are supposed to care for you,
Don't.
Right.
Never mind all the other examples we have, the higher incidence of,
Birth mortality rates.
mortality for black women. Yes. Pick one.
Right.
So for a lot of black people, there's a lack of trust that stems from
Planned Parenthood.
yes,
Mm-hmm. For black folks.
and the infertility or the sterilization.
Sterilization.
So there's a lack of trust that is not. I wouldn't say it's.
Like, these are not conspiracy theories.
It's not a conspiracy
These are
theory. It's not
historical
irrational.
events. Mhm.
It's actually based on people's lived experience, right?
Mhm.
So, I think, let me pull up the actual statistic of how many, there was a poll shows, these
I
polls
love
show.
a good
I didn't take
poll.
the poll. I don't know if you have the poll.
When
but a
I win,
poll
we can pick poll
suggests
polls.
that only 29% of African Americans in the state of California said they would
California. Okay.
said they would definitely or probably get the vaccine.
And the question is why?
And this is a stark contrast to 54% of Latinos, 60% of whites, and 70% of Asian Californians who
Oh,
said
wow. That's
that
a
they
big
would get
difference.
it. Yeah, huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they would.
Said that they
Yeah,
would get it. So
would
like
get it.
70% of
Yeah.
Asian Californians said
Mhm.
they would absolutely or probably get it.
Mm-hmm.
So my mouth is dry, gentlemen.
Okay.
The only other
Like that's
statistic I want to give out is the fact that black people and Latinx community, we are dying at a disproportionate rate compared to white
Any
and
other-
Asians and
yeah.
everyone else.
Right.
Yes.
And we don't want the vaccine as much as they do either.
No.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So I think there are like two things happening here. I think more so, not two things. Like the question is, why don't like black people want the vaccine? Some of it could be due to, like we said, like the mistrust in the medical healthcare industry, because of all the shit we went through from just getting here, and also to also the speed at which a
was
vaccine was created. And some people have there are totally two different arguments on why that is. So I think in order to help us get grounded in the conversation, we can say would we or not get the vaccine, and then I think we can go from there, and we can give our reasons why we would or would not. Cameron,
Yes.
would you get the vaccine?
Yes.
Lauren, would you?
At this point, yes. If you asked me that though a month ago, I might have said no, not immediately when it becomes available to us.
Right, because I would say yes too. Which is, I expect all of us to say yes, which is a new development. So the question is why? Why are we part of?
Well, why did your answer change from a month ago to today?
So I think for me, a lot in general in my life has changed. So and I also have older parents. I see them a lot.
But you knew
And-
that a month ago.
No, I didn't.
Hold on, let me finish.
Oh, I'm acting like her now.
I'm let me get it out. And that was always on the table for me, and a part of why I would get a vaccine. I am very much a person where it's I'm a part of a society and a community. It's not just me, right? And initially, like you said, the point about not being super confident in the clinical trials themselves. That's kind of where I was coming from, and kind of being a little bit hesitant. I have a lot of allergies. I don't know how, you know what I mean? We've been hearing about people having allergic reactions, although it's very rare. That's not a deterrent for me at this point, but it's still something, it's not something I'm jumping up to do. I never was.
What changed your confidence level though? Because you said you wasn't confident.
And I still, I'm not, I can't say that I'm 100%.
So what made you change your mind?
Yeah, I
But
still
it's
don't see the
more
difference.
so, pause, if you think, there might be something like, oh, you know what, I don't want to do that right now. But then you sit on it just for a little bit. You're like, you know what, I can do it. And that's kind of how it was for me. It wasn't a matter of like there was one specific thing that convinced me to do
like
it.
just for the greater good. You thought about it.
Yes,
like, let
exactly.
me check myself.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, okay, well, if whatever could happen to me and it can't be that bad, I'm not doing it just for me.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's true.
So at that point, a month ago, you was like, "Oh, this is just for me," and now
No, it wasn't about just for me.
What is a vaccine for you? So you just gotta be careful. You just have to think about that. That's
Right.
fair.
Okay.
So you have scales, right? And like on one side of things, I'm thinking about like I said, the
Because if
efficacy.
you didn't have like parents, like some people don't have parents
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So they're like, I live by myself. I work at home. Like I don't need the vaccine.
But that was the other thing. I'm working from home. I'm going to be working from home for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the flexibility to continue to work from home.
Right.
And not so.
That's also another reason we didn't talk about. It's like some people are like, well, I don't actually need the vaccine. Like I don't see nobody.
Yeah.
I don't have people in my life who are like immunocompromised. So like, there's like some people. You do certain things because you get vaccinations because you are doing certain things. But it's like if you don't, you probably don't need it.
And I also know likely my parents would get the vaccine before I would, anyways. And so like,
But do you know if they would actually take it?
oh yeah, they would.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, my mother worked
Yeah.
in the hospital. My dad was, he's a retired firefighter. Like, they're front line. You know, like
They're front
hospital
line.
work. Like,
They was on front line at one point in time.
yes, yes.
Okay. Cameron, why would you get the vaccine?
I mean, shit. At this point, the military gave me every shot possible, and I don't even know what the fuck it was, so it ain't no difference.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fair.
I would say for me because I would say I would get it because I did do my research and was reading upon it how the clinical trials was going and how they work. So I think that's very important. And it's for all the vaccines I have already. I never did any of that. I'm I go to Kaiser. They're like, you do for this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm there isn't a difference to me. Because people was oh, this vaccine was rushed. I'm but I don't know if the other ones I've had were rushed either. And a lot of people well, the historical context of it, of they used to kill black people and stuff like that. I was I'm yes.
But this vaccine is not just for black
Right,
people.
I was they can also give you something you don't know what it is.
That is true. That's true.
But it's also the fact that I'm well, if they wanted your black ass dead a long time ago, the vaccine you got, you would have been dead.
Right.
So that's it's what I'm saying. I'm at this point.
But also, with the way that this this pandemic is going, not vaccinating black people would
wipe them out anyway. So it's you can get wiped out.
Either way, choose picky poison.
Right. So that was my main thing of getting vaccinated. I'm because I did the research behind it, which I think is important.
And that's the other thing. You're what changed? But the more you read the more whatever fears you have or whatever uncertainty or uneasiness you have, that starts to kind of subside. I read. I think everyone should
I ain't
read from multiple sources.
Well, I tell you stuff.
Yeah, but I don't actively go and read about it because I'm gonna take it regardless.
And I think that's great. And I still, even if you are going to do something, especially when it comes to your body, and
I
think it's important to know.
I mean, at the end of the day, if it's a vaccine meant to help me not get infected from this. Knowing that my mother has issues and I would like to see her again someday soon, I'm just gonna take it. I mean,
I think that's fine and
but
good.
yeah,
but I'm just saying
I'm not gonna read about it.
I think it's important. I think a lot of people you probably go to the doctor sometime and they give you some. You don't read the side effects or don't take this if you also take this.
Right.
And I
eat
think
before you.
Yeah. It's important for us to start to.
Take a more.
I don't want to say take it more seriously. I think people take it serious.
Active initiative.
Yeah.
Approach to. Yeah. I mean that's fair.
Be in charge of your own health.
Because I think a lot of times for black people specifically too, we do have to do a little bit more work than
In every part of life, yes.
Yes.
It never stops for us.
You know, people may tell you no, or like you might have to. You have a right to get like a second opinion and all
Right,
these other
because
things.
also like, I think we talked about this before. Like doctors aren't always right.
No.
They're not. So you always got to do your own research with any. It's like you buy a car, you look up more than one place. Like you have to do your research, especially when you like put something in your body. So what would you guys say to people who say like, "Well, I'm not getting it"? What would you say to them?
Good luck.
So, like I just said about reading, I think it's important. Like I hope that you come to a decision based off of information that you gathered and not just based off assumptions or hearsay and things like that. So, okay, I would tell you to just read up on some things. We can add some links to this video.
Right. Okay, let's play a little game. Right. I'm going to just give out reasons people say they won't get it.
Oh, okay.
As I think of them off the top of my head. Oh, like I don't want to get injected with that. I might get a third eyeball. Okay. I might turn green, a green monster, get another head. What would you say to that?
Ignorance.
Okay, but Karen, you can't start like that. No one's gonna. That's not how you start convincing someone. Is by calling them ignorant.
Ignorance.
That's not gonna help them.
It's not gonna help them.
I'm just gonna call it what it is. Like that's ignorance. Shit don't work like that. Like, come on now. You really have to think of like the science behind what vaccines are, and you think they want motherfuckers with 3 legs running around all the United States?
But that's the thing. A lot of people don't know the science behind it. So again, I would say read, watch videos.
And the little science I do know behind it when I did some reading about this, like this vaccine specifically, like is going into like your RNA,
mRNA,
mRNA, so your DNA. Mm-hmm. So it can't change.
You're not going to mutate.
No, it's not going to change.
It's not going to change your composition.
Yes, it's not going to change the way you look. Mm-hmm. So people, you can do. Let's also say this: none of us have made the vaccine, seen the vaccine, gotten the vaccine, have done our own study or research. We are not healthcare professionals. We just, the little news blurbs we get on our phone from Twitter is what we have read.
Not Twitter.
Yes, God, Twitter be with it. I know what fake news and real news is on my.
Yes.
If you got fake news, and Twitter been good with the fake news, they're like, this is fake news.
Yes.
But I digress on that. But as I was saying, we're not like healthcare professionals.
I think that's a good point, though. It's very like as you're doing your research, it's very important for you to be pulling your information from reliable and credible sources. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people do struggle with that.
Right. It's hard.
Yeah, because some of that shit be looking real.
It does.
Yes, a lot of it they'll have banners and ads on it.
Especially like if it's like a clickbait and like it's something bad, somebody gonna clink to that.
Not clean.
They yes.
They clicked on it.
Super fast. Way better than like something that's pretty neutral or positive.
Right. And also like these scientific journals and articles for this stuff is like very dense sometimes and hard to understand and hard to read. So just like people know to be aware of that. Okay. Part 2. Okay. What people say. Oh, this vaccine was made super quick, so I don't trust it. Mm-hmm. What would you say to that?
How fast was the other ones made?
No, I would say that
like, can you answer your own question? Like,
even without the answer to that question, I would say that's a valid question or concern to have, right? Mm-hmm. But then you have to take a step back and look at this virus itself and how that differs from other viruses that have or diseases that have a vaccine, right? Mm-hmm. There's differences there. So and like also, let's take HIV. It's very complicated. It replicates a lot. That's not COVID-19, the coronavirus, which according to scientists is actually very simple. Mm-hmm. So there's that.
SARS. But then also think about how many people are actively working on it.
That too.
Versus other stuff. Like, yeah, you got a lot of people working on it, but you got the whole world working on this one.
How many people and how much funding?
Yeah.
Funding is a huge thing, right? Like, there's, I don't know, endometriosis, right? Damn. That affects women only, right? So there's reasons why there's lower funding, right?
And science.
And, it's something that hasn't been studied a whole lot. So low funding, you're not going to find cures and treatments for things like that. Yeah. When you have something that's a global pandemic that is affecting everyone,
every country
every
is working
walk
on this
of
at
life.
the same time.
You have tons of money being poured into it. Economies, when that money starts to be, get messed with, people, they're going to take shit seriously.
Yeah, like when I worked in Warp Speed, that was like, y'all need to figure this out. Like, it's just like the only thing scientists around the world are doing all day. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, people are like, well, we don't have nothing for HIV and AIDS. I'm like, here we go again, when mostly black people are affected by something, they ain't gonna throw the resources at it like that.
And especially not when it's like something that's prolonged, you know what I mean?
Because you don't die right away from getting HIV or AIDS.
No.
And also, I would say that, like, as Cameron mentioned before, like SARS, coronavirus has been around a long time, and it's different strains of it everywhere. So they already been working on this already, which a lot of people don't know.
Yes.
So it was just like picking up steam on a lot of research and testing what they already have been doing anyway. It ain't like it's a new virus you have never heard of or seen before.
I think all the terminology and stuff like that kind of throws people off.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And people be like, COVID-19, like it's 18 other ones. That's not what COVID-19 stands for. It's not the 19th one.
And I think
I heard that one.
You heard that? People like, oh yeah.
I think
it was Dr. Drew.
No.
Wait, he said that, or somebody on his show?
Somebody said it. He was like, yeah, Because Dr. Drew got he got it today.
A psychologist.
Yeah,
right?
he got it today.
No
Take
shade.
his license.
Yeah, because he got COVID today. It was like reported on Twitter, and then they was like pull back all his old videos of him saying like, "Oh, it's not gonna be worse than flu. It's not that bad. They shouldn't be." He was like.
But what's interesting is a lot of people said that. Clinicians too were like, "Oh, and a lot of people were saying like, oh, the death rate is only what do they say?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
2%,
something like that." 2% of 330 million, that's a lot of people, and I don't understand that argument.
Well,
Because I've heard that for this is not a big deal, the vaccine.
They
whatever,
were comparing
whatever.
it to H1N1 too, that had a 36% death rate when it first came out. So they were just like, okay, 2% versus 36%. It's not that bad. But you gotta take into account, right? Take into account how many people it's affecting. H1N1 didn't affect the fucking globe.
Right, it didn't spread as easily as this one.
That part.
That's why 30% of people died.
Yeah.
It's only 10 people got it. Of course, you gotta look at people looking at the percentages, but look at the total number.
Yes.
And then the lasting effects people are having with COVID of some people don't taste or smell for months.
And we have
the
no clue what the long-term effects are going to be.
Right. To me, that's affecting your DNA.
Right.
Rather than this vaccine would be. So
imagine the people if they can't get their taste back. That's terrible.
Right, and people it scars their lungs. A lot of people, a lot of these athletes are getting it. I don't think they're thinking about when they're keeping the NFL open, if they open, COVID scars the tissue. You can't run as fast or as long as you could before. So
that's fucking up your money in the long run. If you
right, if you think about the long, these people too smart. I guess they think about
right now.
The shelf life of an NFL player is this much anyway.
They don't care about them.
They don't care about them.
At the end of the day,
they don't. It's a commodity that I need you to make this money now. So that's the sad part about it.
What do you think it will take for the people who say they won't get the vaccine to get it, or do you just think they're never going to get it?
I think it's going to take a lot more deaths at a faster rate. Especially with this new strain out, if it affects people differently and it start killing people faster, I think it'll scare them into taking it. Unfortunately, that's what it's going to take.
I also think by the time the people who talking about stuff is the people who won't get it last, who will get it last anyway. So I think by the time some of you people get it, it's gonna be October. No, it's gonna be October, November anyway. Based on your math and that you read, it
won't become widely available until the Q4 of next year.
Q4. I mean, but you said
10 years.
You said 10 years.
No, they're saying to get to 80% people being vaccinated at the current pace they're going, it would take 10 years.
Yeah, them people is in the 90%.
No, you gotta get the vaccines to people.
Yeah, and it's like, and they gotta actually come in and take it.
Yeah.
All that stuff, and it's 2 doses.
That's what this article was talking about.
Right. Yeah. So I just think once October come around, we will know way more information about people who have gotten it now. And I think depending on how that go, like it could change our minds too.
Yes.
And
it could say no.
Right, and it could change other people. If people start dropping like flies, I'm like, or like something really happens to them.
If it gets real, I am legend.
Or if it just don't work.
Yes.
Which is like plausible.
But then I think another thing is like people have to realize how it works. Like it's a 2-part thing. I don't think people realize that either.
Right, and also people need to realize what was just like the game we was playing. Number 3 was like, oh well, people get sick and people are passing out when they take the.
There's lots of times like people have
reactions.
People just afraid of needles too.
That's true too.
Like I was giving anthrax shots in the military to people before deployment, and they were just terrified of needles, so they would just get a shot and pass out. It's not the anthrax; it's they're just scared.
Right. Yeah. So like in that vein, I also would tell people that like anytime like we all had shots before. Some of them like you get swelling, some of it hurts. Like that's parts
for days.
That last flu shot I had, my arm was hurting really bad, and it's just it is what it is. Take some Tylenol.
Right, and sometimes like a lot of like they do give you like a micro virus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of the virus. So that's how the body works. How you be immune to it. Mm-hmm. So. Some people you do feel some symptoms, like when people get the flu, people are like, oh, I got the flu and they gave me the flu.
I mean, they gave you a dead version of it. But
yes.
Right, yeah. So like, but your body can still have a reaction to it.
Absolutely.
So people who have gotten like the second shots have said like, oh, like for like a day, like I did get like a low fever. I had like a migraine and stuff like that. Like my body had some aches and pains, but the next day was fine. Mm-hmm. And that's like to be expected.
Yes.
So I want people to know like, oh, I got the shot and I was sick.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm like, and most people who actually get corona are sick for like 14 days.
Yes.
Like have diarrhea, can't smell, and a whole bunch of stuff. So like, I just make sure people are aware of that as well. Like, people have said when you get that second shot hurt, it's a beast. So be prepared. We all have shots.
Be prepared.
I'm just want people worry like I got sick afterwards. Yeah. You will get sick, and you will be okay. Mm-hmm. Most of y'all. I don't know what your reactions are, but you'll be okay.
Yeah.
You'll be okay.
Do you guys know anyone who's gotten vaccinated? I actually know quite a few people who have.
I just know some people offer. I know a lot of people have turned it down.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Like some people like work in the healthcare industry.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And some people like companies will make you take it. Like airlines are thinking about.
That's really interesting.
Like before you can come on a plane, you got to take it. Some jobs like, oh, you got to take this before you can come back to work. Like some jobs mandate vaccines. Like my job, like tuberculosis, like TB.
Oh,
you have to get TB shots. I'm thinking this will end up being akin to that.
That's going to be really interesting to see.
Because I work in the education field, and like kids aren't eligible to get the vaccine right now because kids can't get it. It hasn't been tested on them yet, and they break those down into pieces. So I'm like, teachers will be next, and I work in the education field. So
I feel like as long as they're trying to send teachers back to school, it should be the case. Yeah.
Right, but
I'm not just saying that like it should be available to them because like I'm pretty sure most teachers want to get. Well, okay, I can't make that assumption, but I'm pretty sure like anyone who's going to be around a bunch of people is wanting to take care of.
Right, especially if the kids can get vaccinated.
And the kids, when they be with all their little germs.
Hell
yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, as we've been mentioned for, like, everyone got to do their own individual research to know your allergies. I'm like, because you can have an allergic reaction to any vaccine. Yeah.
Yes.
So do your research. We're not healthcare professionals. Don't go to the doctor and be like, Cameron said I should get the vaccine, because that ain't how it works. So, do your research, stay diligent, like read, talk to your doctor, call Kaiser. They have a hotline 24/7.
Also, Google does have a lot of really good authoritative content.
What does that mean?
So authoritative content being coming from sources that are, I use air quotes because, it's open to interpretation, but are trusted, have a long reputation of providing good scientific content. So typically if you do a Google search, those top ones up there, they have been vetted. They don't. It's not just random that they're up there. Those aren't gonna. Now, if you start going to page 7, 8, 9,
who people call that?
People do, and they'll be the ones that are like, oh yes, Breitbart.
Not Breitbart.
But I digress. As Roshad said, do your research. Continue to read. Form your own opinion. Think about what makes sense for you, your life, the community, the world, your job, everything. We can't tell you what to do, but we just hope that when you come to a decision, you feel well informed and you're comfortable.
Yeah, you make a decision for you. You don't just say like my granny said.
Yes.
Is your granny wrong?
And with that, we will share some links for y'all. We will share some links, but remember to like, subscribe. Remember to like, subscribe, click that link, follow us at Next Topic Podcast on Instagram. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can watch the video and listen to us on YouTube. You can follow me at CoolTCoolKeys on Instagram.
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Shads_space. That's FHADS_SPACE. Okay.
I hate you. You can follow me on everything at Clicks by Cam. KLICKSBYKM.
Toodaloo.
I felt like that was like